Hey guys, and welcome back to another Spy Family Sunday. I apologize in advance if you guys can hear the heat running in the background. It is cold. It's like 26 degrees outside. It's supposed to snow actually tomorrow and Tuesday. I live in Texas, so whenever it snows, it pretty much shuts the state down. So like everybody runs to the grocery store and like cleans the shelves off and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, I apologize if you can hear that in the background, but it's cold and I'm not used to cold weather. So yes, I am here to talk about chapter 110 of Spy Family. Oh my god, 110 guys. We're in the 110s. It's crazy, it's awesome. And this chapter was also amazing. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. We will get into it. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, liking, definitely leave me a comment, and let's get into it. So this chapter starts right where we left off with Lloyd and Melinda. And, she's looking a little awkward and she's like, yeah, he's an alien. Lloyd is still kind of like, and in his mind, he's thinking this is a metaphor for someone. Like, obviously he's still on the cusp of placing this in any form of reality. And Melinda's just looking, really uncomfortable. And Lloyd is asking her, what made you come to this conclusion? And, Melinda's like, I really can't do this. And she sort of has an outburst. And Lloyd is like, you can relax. Like, everything here, the conversation is private. You don't have to worry about anybody knowing. And she's like, it's not that simple. And, she stands up like she's getting ready to leave. Her bodyguard is out in the waiting area. And she's like, madam. And she sort of gets a little apprehensive about the situation. And then Fiona shows up. Fiona! I really like Fiona. And she sets a cup of tea down for Melinda's bodyguard. She's like, oh, don't worry. Dr. Forger knows what he's doing. She's in good hands. Her bodyguard is like, you're right. The madam, she can handle this by herself. And Fiona, basically sweet talks her into revealing more information. She's like, I'm a psychiatric nurse. So if there's anything that you would like to bring into the conversation, something that maybe the madam is not comfortable completely expressing objectively. And so I love that like Lloyd and Fiona are tag teaming this. I didn't expect Fiona to be part of this mission, so I am very excited about it. They've been on, this is like the second mission that they've been on like consecutively, so it's pretty cool. So anyways, Fiona's working it from one way, Lloyd's working it from the other way. We continue, and Lloyd is just telling Melinda to take some deep breaths, have her relax, like, how are you feeling now? And so for Lloyd, there's in the back of his mind, there's a lot going on. And so Lloyd is telling her, if your husband is harming you in any way, there are arrangements we can make to protect you and your sons, and to basically get them away from him. And so Lloyd is thinking, is there a way that he can be charged criminally for this? Somebody that can remove him from power. But of course it's never that simple, because Donovan is in heavy with the politicians. So that would be something that would be difficult. But still, if there's a way to plant a seed, there's a way to plant a seed. And Melinda goes on to tell him, there's nothing that he's done to me. He hasn't done anything to me, which sets off alarm bells for Lloyd. He's thinking like, is there a way that he's controlling her in some other way if it's not physically? Emotional abuse does exist. Lloyd isn't trying to push her too hard, but he's like, you're telling me these things, but I can clearly see that you are suffering on some level. Melinda starts to reflect on when all of this started, and she's like, I suppose, but I feel like it's too late. She's like, I can't even remember when all of this started. Was it after my first child? Was it after my second child? Melinda goes on to say that Donovan just started pushing everybody away from him. This is when Melinda starts to think that, well, maybe this is just always how he's been, or that he's been infiltrated by an alien. And then we see like a panel of an alien that's sort of looming over Donovan. Lloyd is looking a little taken aback because she's very serious about this extraterrestrial thing. He's thinking like, this has to be a matter of delusion, because all of this stuff that she's saying it doesn't make any sense. Melinda goes on to say, earlier you asked me how I've come to this conclusion. She goes on to say that her and her husband rarely have conversations with each other. They barely interact. And even her older son is saying that her husband know that alien can read minds. And at this point in the chapter, like, guys, I screamed, because what was I saying a couple of chapters ago? Like, it all makes sense. Donovan does not need to talk to anybody because he's just reading your mind. It is, in his mind, a a waste of time because I already know what you're thinking. He's 2 steps ahead. That's why he could be so successful in taking down these other countries and being a warmonger. Like, it makes so much sense. It is crazy. Now, obviously, all of this has to be confirmed, but considering everything that we have seen in this series, it makes so much sense. Oh my God, it makes so much sense. I mean, no wonder Melinda is so paranoid about being around him. She doesn't have any privacy. That's why she was in such a hurry to get away from him during the dinner. Like, she looks so uncomfortable. Everybody's sitting there, nobody's saying anything because Donovan is just reading their minds, or at least that's what they think is happening. But still, this theory is crazy. It makes so much sense. Like, the plot is plotting. This is fantastic. And so after Melinda says this to Lloyd, he just looks like completely like, what is going on? There is no way that this is a possibility that anybody can read anybody's minds. So, I mean, obviously Lloyd is a very practical person, so he's listening to her, and saying all these things. In other words, he's telepathic. And so Melinda's scared. She's scared of him. She has no private thoughts, and she doesn't know how to protect herself or her sons. And this also ties into why she's into tarot cards, because with tarot cards, there's a belief that with reading cards, you can see into the future to know what's happening. So I think that's also interesting as to why she would seek something out like tarot card and trying to get some kind of stabilization as to how to stay ahead of Donovan. Like, this is some next level writing. It's so intricate. It's so good. They continue, and Lloyd is just saying, that must be hard for you. Has your husband ever ordered you to do something that you're not comfortable with? He goes on to suggest that maybe Melinda brings Donovan to one of her sessions. She looks terrified. She's like, you really think I should do that? And Lloyd is basically placating her delusion of him being an alien. And Lloyd suggests to Melinda that a friendly alien, and maybe we could get some honest dialogue in here. She's sort of rolling this around in her mind and taking it into consideration, and Lloyd gives her I guess like a spiral, a notebook, and he wants her to record how she feels when she thinks that Donovan is reading her mind. How does that make her feel? He tells her that next session, we're going to continue doing more of this, and that he wants to get her examined before she leaves, prescribe her some low-grade medications, and so they're leaving, and Lloyd and Fiona are talking about what information they've gathered, and Lloyd is sort of thinking, I wonder if I pushed her too hard. Maybe I should have, gone about it a different way. And Fiona's like, there's no way Donovan is ever going to come here. And reading this, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, there's no way he would come to a place like this. Lloyd sort of reminds her of Donovan, who's been replaced by an alien. And Fiona's like, from what I've gathered from her bodyguard, there's no reason to think that Melinda's deliberately lying about this. Lloyd is saying it's probably best to see her examination results before we delve deeper into what exactly is going on here. So, wow. The tag teaming in this is great. I'm honestly pretty excited about this. I hope Fiona becomes like a big part of this arc. We then pan to Lloyd coming home, and of course Yor's like, welcome home, I hope your day was great. And Lloyd is thinking like the ability to read minds. He is in denial. He's like, there's no way somebody would be able to do that. They could infiltrate an agency and take it down in no time. And I'm glad that the thought of telepathy is being introduced to Lloyd. That way, eventually, we're all assuming that when Lloyd finds out that Anya can read minds, it won't be such a big like, oh my God, how, you know what I'm saying? Like, the eggs are being planted. And so I think that's very fascinating. Obviously, Anya is reading Lloyd's mind about all of this, and Lloyd is thinking about Donovan. Lloyd is like, the more I find out about you, the less I understand. Telepathy is not something, clairvoyance is not something that actually exists. So yes, Donovan Donovan is always going to be 10 steps ahead of Lloyd, because if he can actually read minds, Lloyd doesn't stand a chance. Things are getting pretty intense, and and Anya just looks completely flabbergasted by this, because she's like, super evil boss has the same power as I do, and that's just how the chapter ends. But this chapter was so good. It was so good. And I'm sorry, I felt like, especially after that chapter with the Desmonds having dinner, something about it just didn't sit right with me. I had a feeling that he was downloading essentially everybody's thoughts. That's why he didn't need to say anything. Because I was like, bro, open your mouth, communicate with your family, what is going on? And it all makes sense. I mean, this is major. This is a major development. How is Lloyd supposed to infiltrate Donovan, especially, to stop this war from happening if he can read minds? Not only that, what if Donovan already knows about Lloyd? Because let's not forget how season 1 ended with first contact, and Donovan and Lloyd are there just chatting it up, and Lloyd's doing his infiltration and all this stuff, and the whole time Donovan is like, okay, so this guy is up to something. Obviously Lloyd does not know that he's reading his mind, so I mean, Donovan's playing a long game too, so it's like, who is actually using who? So I am very excited for the next time there's interaction between Lloyd and Donovan. Because if Indo actually shows us that he can read Lloyd's mind, Lloyd is gonna have to be like, he's gonna have to be on it around Donovan if he even starts to believe or suspect that Donovan can actually read minds. Like, Lloyd cannot slip around this man if he can actually read minds. And so hopefully during this arc, like, the idea of this becomes more of a reality. I don't know if Anya's maybe gonna test the limits to that, because Anya is also on it when it comes to reading Lloyd's mind, and even Lloyd is like, how could she possibly know that? And that was a good hunch. And so it's like, will the telepathy be discovered through Donovan, or will it be discovered through Anya? Like, who is it going to be discovered through first? Like, let me know in the comments. Do you think Lloyd's going to find out about telepathy through his daughter first, or is he going to learn it through Donovan? Either way, it's very exciting. I cannot wait for the next chapter. The next chapter is scheduled to... So the next chapter is slated for February 2nd. So that's when you can expect another chapter update from me. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this chapter. And until next time, remember to be awesome and stay true.